Hi, I'm Kiara.
Hi, I'm Tanesha, and you're now entering the Sister Chat. Welcome to Main Event Mamas podcast.
It's been a fun week again. We lied. I have to admit that first of all. Last week, we said we were going to give you 3 episodes, and that was just, we did 2 out of 3 because it was just an impossible journey last week. But we will make it up to you with that first live stream at some point. But I just wanted to acknowledge those of you who were waiting and that we did not do it. And so apologies, but good things coming. Good thing coming. So I'm excited about that. And a week was had, right, Tanisha?
It has. It's been a lot going on, especially
Yeah.
in my world. A lot.
Yeah, a lot of busyness in the mom verse.
I feel like I get no break between a high school graduation that I traveled for 6 hours,
Bless
and then
you.
to travel back so I can take one to basketball just to find out it was canceled and it got pushed to the Tuesday. So then this week, everyone's had award shows, basketball showcases, and then at the end of this week is going to be a senior prom for a 5th grader. So it's a lot.
Yeah, no, So if you want to blame someone, it definitely ain't me.
Sorry, it was my fault, guys. I've been swamped.
It's like, respectfully, we get it. So that's cool. And that's why we had to adjust. And, as moms, that's what we do. But this week, we're going to go down memory lane a little bit for
I'm a little
our
scared.
parenting topic of the week.
I'm scared.
As you should be.
Okay.
Going down memory lane. And we want to talk about something that is a little bit, near and dear to our hearts, or mine right now, as I have a teenager I'm trying to convince he needs a job. Is our first jobs, and kind of the good, the bad, and the crazy is what I like to call it. So we're going to talk about some of these experiences, whether they were fun, they were cringeworthy, they were sometimes really hilarious. And then talk about how my boy child is anti-job right now, which is crazy work in my opinion. So let's kick things off. So Tell me, Tanesha, what was your very first official job, and how old were you when you got it?
Okay. Can't tell you how old I was. I can tell you I was in high school. But my first official job was me working at the New York Aquarium. And that was one of my best jobs ever. It really was. And I think if I had to really think about my age, I definitely had it my junior year in high school and probably sophomore. So I would say I probably started around 15, 16.
Okay.
Yes, that's when I got my first official
15,
job.
16.
Like I've done other, you do other jobs like in between, but like the official one,
Yeah.
like the one I put on resumes.
I hope you're not still putting it on resumes.
Okay, no, but I mean, if I had to put it on resumes, that was the one I put on the resume.
That's fair. Let me see. What was my first job?
I feel like it was Blockbusters. No,
Walmart. No.
Was it Walmart?
Yes. No? It was at Walmart.
I said, I know it was one of those two. I remember.
My first job, my very, very first job was at Walmart. I got it the summer I was with Dad when I was 16, I think. Yes.
Right. That was the summer you was with Dad by yourself.
That's right.
I was working. So see, that's what it was. We both were working.
Absolutely. So I was 16, and I'm pretty sure I got my job because he was flirting with the manager. I'm pretty convinced that's why, because...
Well, you know what? I guess
you got to work your connections.
Sometimes, hey.
I learned that lesson that day, that you have to work with what you got to get what you need. And he was talking to the manager, and he kept talking to the manager. He was like, hey, this is my daughter. She needs a job.
You know what? I can definitely hear Dad in his voice saying, hey.
He did.
And saying, hey, in the way, like, you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that was...
You are embarrassing.
It was embarrassing because I was like, I feel like you're just shipping me off, like, please. But he was like, you're going to get a job this summer. And I got a job, and I worked at Walmart. And it was actually a pretty good experience, to be honest. So it wasn't the worst. I definitely think I had some moments there.
I'm about to say, really? Was it? Because I remember every time I talked to you after I came off work and we talked. or right before you went to work.
Yeah.
You did not seem like you liked it too much.
I mean, in hindsight, I liked it.
Okay.
As a 16-year-old, I was like, that's crazy work that my dad made me get a job. All right, which actually takes me to my next question. Why did you get that job? What was your main motivation for it? Were you like spending money, helping out family, or saving for something big? Like, how was that for you?
Okay, first, I didn't save shit.
Yeah.
Okay, let me be real clear.
Cool.
You get a job, you didn't get a job so you can save your money. You got a job so you can spend it so you can stop asking people for money. But what I do remember is I initially started this job as a docent, and I wasn't getting paid. So I literally strictly was just volunteering.
Okay.
That's how I started. It was just strictly volunteering. And it was Susan, her name is Susan. She was the education department director at the New York Aquarium at the time. And she told me and my best friend at the time, who was working with me,
Okay.
that we can actually get paid for it because we are 15, 16.
Oh.
And I looked at her and I was like, huh? She's like, yeah, y'all can get paid for this. So during the summer, y'all can get paid for this, okay? So we're going to figure it out and you go to your school. You're going to tell them. I was like, oh. Because how I got the job was through my school, because I went to a school that had agriculture. Well, whatever, I don't care. I went to John Bowne.
Okay.
We are the only high school in New York City that actually has a farm in their backyard versus having a football field.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a choice.
That is, but we actually have a farm. Like, they have like chickens. We had rabbits. At the time we
like
had
ones who currently live outside my house at this point because they keep procreating.
oh yeah, when they start, no, that's why term of fucking like rabbits, because you
Yep.
Yeah. But so once I got paid for it, then it was just great. I mean, for me, if I had to rank all my jobs, that was the best job I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Yes,
I mean,
it did. Because one, my passion, my love for animals.
Yes, I was going to say that's probably why. Yeah.
My passion and love for animals. And on top of that, I worked at the aquarium.
That's kind of cool. I'm not going to lie.
And granted, the New York Aquarium now is not what it was 20 years ago. Because 20 years ago, we had the beluga whales. We had walruses.
Yeah.
We had penguins. We had harbor seals. We had dolphins. We had, we still have the shark tank, but they had the shark tank and the turtles that live with the sharks. And
okay.
then we had what's called a touch pool, where, you touch sea stars and horseshoe crabs. And like feel like their, I want to say their tentacles, their feet. So you flip them over. So we had 2 touch pools. Like, there was a lot.
That sounds traumatizing as hell.
Oh, I love me my
I meant crab. for the animals.
The animals, yeah. Probably, definitely.
I was gonna say probably for the. I wasn't saying
every 5 seconds.
But all these people just trying to touch them.
But it was mainly, yeah, I get it. Yes. When you look at it from that perspective, yes, that's terrible. Why would you want people touching you and violating you?
I mean, this animals is your territory. I'm just saying that.
Yeah. But that's, but my favorite thing was working there, because I definitely got a lot of different opportunities working there.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm spilling over into the next topic, but.
Yes. Okay. So let me stop you there, because I think the next one's you're going to like this one. I will tell you my main motivation for getting that job was I wanted money, but I also just wanted to work. I think that was kind of it. My mom she had this saying, she would not pay for luxury items. Anything that was a luxury item was something you had to pay for yourself. So at that time, that consisted of like cell phones or like extra CDs at that time. That was our time for that kind of thing. Or clothes that she wasn't about to buy you, that was about to be on you, stuff like that. So I kind of wanted that. And then I think that's why I got that job. Or maybe it's because like we were around the same age. Excuse me. Ooh, sorry. Long day. But anyway, we were around that age where everybody was getting jobs. So I was like, I don't really know what my main motivation was for getting that job other than probably we were just around that age. And that was the thing to do. And this is going to matter when I get into the kid conversation. But it was
Okay.
just like what everyone did. We just went and got jobs, and it was easy to get a job at that point. It wasn't super difficult. But I do think my father flirting with the manager is probably why I got one so fast.
Yeah, because I'm going to say I've never been hired for Walmart, and I've definitely applied multiple times.
I had a great experience. Me and the manager were great. I worked in Virginia Beach. It was great in some cases. Again, hindsight is 2020.
You worked at the one that was off of Lynn Haven?
Girl, I don't remember. I was just in the car. I don't. No, I think it was in Norfolk. No, I think it was in. So it wasn't Virginia Beach.
Oh, I know what that one is.
I was like,
That's off of,
yeah, it was
that's
probably
off
in
Virginia
Norfolk.
Beach Boulevard.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't think it was. We weren't at the beach at that point, so it was definitely why I did it. But that wasn't the job. That was the most like insane
Impactful.
one. So
Oh,
my next question is going to talk about kind of a memorable moment or a typical day at the
Okay.
job.
okay.
And so I will tell you. So first, my first job was Walmart, but my second job was at Stone Mountain Park,
Yes, I remember.
and I
you
worked in the
working.
plantation.
I remember. Okay, that's probably the job because the conversation just like jogged my memory because you were like, I have to wear these stupid ass
Exactly. I was
uniforms.
going to say, I don't think I hated Walmart the way that I
Hated
disliked
Stone.
working in the plantation. So they had this fun like job drive for all the kids at our school in Stone Mountain. It was in Stone Mountain High School, and they were like, everybody was buzzing because we could all get jobs down the street, essentially, right? And Stone Mountain Park, if you're not familiar with it, it's like a historical-ish park. Not totally. There are some historical parts, but then there are some newer parts. And since then, they developed all these other attractions and things like that. But anyway, so this one, it was like a mass hiring situation. We all got hired, me and my friends, and our brother also got hired at Stone Mountain Park.
Yes, I remember.
But at the time, there was a big push for it was a grand opening of Crossroads, which was the 1890s portion of the park. It was run by the same people who run like Dollywood. So I thought I would be working with my friends. Most of my friends worked in Crossroads. So in Crossroads, you had people who worked in the various different little shops there. They had like my homegirl worked at the glass shop. That was cool. She probably would say that was her favorite job. She worked at the glass shop. Some people worked as like food vendors. There were all sorts of shops. There was a Christmas shop. There was all sorts of shops you can stop in and get things. There were like clothes and some other stuff I can't remember right now because that was age ago and I haven't gone in a while. Anyway, so unbeknownst to me, I get hired at the plantation. And not just at the plantation. So the plantation, the timing for around the plantation was like 18. We're just going to say it's prior. I'm going to say it's prior than slavery being abolished. We're just going to say that. It's prior than slavery being abolished. And the best part was I worked next to the costume shop. That was the best part. Because the dress for all the people on Crossroads, it was like a regular shirt and some regular like basic shirt and some black pants. Well, no. Since Kiara worked at the plantation, she got to wear old-timey clothes with aprons and that thing that goes underneath your clothes, not the one that fluffs you into like a umbrella, but it still was like one like not I had a petticoat. So I had to wear a
girdle.
Nope. No, I didn't have to wear the what's it called? The crochet corset. Those were the other chicks who had I wasn't walking. So I worked at the antique shop with two older white ladies who I adored. So it was real crazy. It was real crazy. And like I said, my outfits consisted of petticoats and aprons, always old kind of clothes, very lacy. I had my hair kind of similar to this back in the day, and it used to be up in a bun. I would have pearls on. Anyway, the craziest experience that I had there was these two ladies came from the UK, and they came into the shop, and they were like, we really want to buy these like expensive little knickknack type things because they were expensive, like tables and like lamps and like picture. It was just amazing, the gorgeous stuff in that shop. a music box, which I had to change, and I had to listen to the same ridiculous, crazy music every day, all day, all summer. And they walk into the shop and they're like, "Hey, hi, you guys are so cute. Oh my God." And my nails were done. So they were done in these like French manicure style. And the people at the costume shop, they like to dress me up because they were like, "You're so cute. You're like a little doll." So they would like put me in even more lacy crop. So every time I would come back, it'd be like more uniforms for you. Anyway, as you can imagine, it sent the wrong message. So the people in the UK were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they have slaves here." And I was like, "What?" So she was like, "Well, this is a time frame, right?" And like, I was the only black person in the shop with the two older white ladies. And I did not know what to say because that was the first time I had ever experienced anyone asking me such an outrageous question. But the two older white ladies that I worked with, they cussed those UK women out, top
Good.
to bottom. They were like, you do not call our Kiara a slave. She is not a slave. Who does this?" I was in utter shock that day how well
Good.
they like took care of me and took up for me. And that was my favorite job, working with those two, because I used to walk back and forth from the park, and they did. They were like moms. They were like, "You need to sit down and get some water." I would help them with like heavy objects. I would wrap stuff. We got along really great. I love those ladies. And that was why that was probably most memorable moment. And also showing me like I didn't grow up in the South. So moving there was a bit of a experience.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the North. And then like the racism I kind of started to experience was weird to me because I hadn't experienced up north. But in particular, that moment really stood out for me just to see how strongly they were opposed to any of that. They were like, "Do
Yeah.
not get this twisted." And those poor ladies ran out the shop. I mean, not lying, ran out of the shop and never to be seen again. So that was probably the craziest experience. But it wasn't my only one there. Like I ended up coming back several years in a row and ended up working in a Christmas shop. That was an experience. It was an experience. But I will say it was steady work. I got along with everybody and it was a great way to spend the summers between, college. So tell me about your most memorable moment at that job or another job around that time.
Mm, no, it would be still the aquarium because I stayed at the aquarium for 2 years, and I would have stayed there longer if the F train wasn't doing construction, and it was going to be construction for a whole year. Because
Mm.
right when one of my memorable experience, I would say, is me being a camp counselor with these
Ooh.
kids, who was a part of the new aquarium camp, and interacting with them. And especially there was one particular little boy. I can't remember his name,
Okay.
but I do have a picture of him. And he was my favorite little child. And because he was quiet, like he stayed to himself and he didn't really open up. But then once I kept talking to him and trying to get him, then he opened up and he blossomed and he was like, "Yeah, this is me." And, and one of my favorite moments, we were in the student room and we were doing an activity, but we were going over pretty much a shark's head. So we
Ooh.
had the shark head and we were going over like look at the teeth. Everybody can feel it, put it around, everything like that. And then we took pictures at the end. So he took a picture with it and we put our hands like the shark was eating us and we're like, "Ah!" And and
That sounds fun.
he was like so into it, and it was just so great to see where he came from the beginning to the end. But then because of how well I was doing and because how well I am educating other guests, especially when it came to the beluga tank, when it came to the walrus tank, I think I even did the sea otters. Like by the time 2 years was done, I pretty much could stand at any post. I can tell you
Wow.
about any animal that was there.
Wow.
So that 2 years, I was able to, I can go I can, like, in the morning, like, okay, I'm not gonna be at the belugas tank. Okay, I'm gonna be over at the walruses. Okay, I'm gonna be at the shark tank. Oh, wait, I'm gonna be over when they first come in. So we're gonna talk about the fish that are in that are in that tank, and if they have questions or about the ecosystem and things of that nature, I got it. To the point where how well I did and how much of a liking the director had of me. My next job was for me to become a junior keeper.
Okay.
Where I was going to pretty much learn the diets of the beluga whales. So I was going to be working with the beluga whales trainers because they like how I was so knowledgeable about the belugas that we had. And actually, I had kind of like a relationship with one of them.
The whale?
Yes, one of the whales. To where the whale wouldn't be around when the other docents were there. The whale would like swim and like whatever. But when I was there, this particular whale used to always make sure to come by me. And we were like kind of like if nobody was there, I kind of like turn around and I'd just like start talking to it. Because belugas is one of my favorite whales ever. So I just start talking to it and we would just be talking. And, you know, and then they'll come back and they'll go back and they'll come back and they'll be like looking at me. I'm like, what's up? So, and then I was always so fascinated because then I would watch them. And once that particular whale was done eating, if I was down, they would come back.
Wow.
And like be by me. And then they're like, oh my God, the whale likes you. Can you do something? No, I can't do nothing because I don't have a treat. I don't have anything. We're not supposed to do that. Because everyone used to do that with the walruses. Make them do tricks.
Oh.
Especially our male walrus. They used to... They weren't supposed to use...
Walrus?
Walrus. What'd I say?
No, I'm just saying walrus. What? Is that a...
Walruses.
Walrus?
Walruses?
Okay. I was like, what is a walrus? You mean a walrus. Okay, that's
a walrus.
Cool. I didn't know what a walrus was, and I thought I was crazy. So it's good to know that.
I'm not saying it right.
It's okay.
A walrus.
Yes, that. You said walrus. I was just going to blame it on your accent from New York. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Because I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I said adorable. It's a walrus. Adorable. Anyway. So that was like really... That was really my best. And I wish it would continue because I probably would still be there. And
wow.
And yeah, I would still be there.
You would still be there. I'm like a little jealous. Like I guess we didn't have our typical first jobs like babysitting or like, I mean, Walmart, I guess,
did.
right?
I mean, we did.
Sorta.
We did have babysitting, but I mean, you said our official job. Babysitting wasn't an official
That's what
job.
I said. I was like, I don't, I didn't do that. But anyway.
Like, they could choose to pay me or not pay me. It's not. And then when they paid you, it was only like maybe $20,
Does it
$40.
count
it wasn't even
that our father made us watch like a whole group of cousins? Like,
no, because he didn't pay us.
Exactly. So, all right. So let's transition to our kids a little bit. Because we both have kids who are old enough to like have starting. We got 17-year-olds. So it's kind of like, I was like, you're a little late. I started at 16. But their first jobs and like, and I know that's something we've been talking about between us of like, what could we do? What would be a good opportunity? The different challenges they would. So what kind of job, like, do you want your kid to get first? And like, why? Because I'm like, as I'm thinking about this and trying to help him go through this, I'm picky. I'm very picky.
You've always been picky.
That's the truth. I didn't do food service. I still don't do food.
All your life, and y'all consider me picky, but you were.
I don't like food service, but I like people. So I learned retail was my jam, but not sales. Just helping people and managing them. That's my jam. No judgment. Okay, now back to you. What?
I'm like, I felt shots happen. I mean, girl, I'm like, girl, yes, you were a manager, but you still had to sell things at Blockbuster.
I remember.
Girl. You were there for years, and then you worked at MARTA. That was terrible.
MARTA was a parking. I don't want to talk about that. Moving on.
I know that's what I said. That was a terrible job. If you had to think
about
a terrible job,
totally terrible. My manager was awesome.
You could not run fast enough. The moment opportunity happened, you ran. Yes,
but okay, check it out. MARTA, my manager was great, and it was a good opportunity for that time in my life. Like it fit what I was going through. I was a young single mom. I needed a job that was on the weekends that fit so I could finish college. So it did its job, but I was so happy to leave, and my manager was equally happy to make sure I no longer worked at that job because she was like, this ain't for you. There's bigger and better out there. And you're right, girl. I just want to tell you, Keisha, still love you, girl. You was the best. She bought my kids stuff all the time because we was, you know, epidemically poor at that point working at Marta
Wow.
for
Wow.
like $7 an hour, $7.50. Oh, anyway, back again.
Okay, anyway, back to
Answer question.
back to the topic at hand. I know I got deterred. I realized I was like, as you was talking, I was like, girl, we're not on topic. I just was talking. Anyway. I would, if I had the option, I would love Jalen's first job to be his passion.
Okay.
Which is in doing some type of animation or learning different type of animations or working at one of those animation companies, being an intern, really getting to see the grander scheme of things versus just drawing and trying to produce your own, seeing the bigger scale. However, if I had to pick another job for him, it would be for him like to work at like Michael's, because he goes in there, he knows like his pencils and his pens and the different type of things if you're trying to get shades or what book is better, or I think he would be a good asset to that. However, I don't think those are going to be his first jobs. Because as we told you how when we talked off the air, I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but up here in New York, they have what's called the summer youth program.
Okay.
Where you get a job. And they help you get a job, but typically it's through the school. And technically that's how I got my first job. It was through the summer youth program, but it was I think it was called something different, because we used to have to go off site to get our checks, go somewhere else. Not even where we worked. I picked up my check in Harlem. And I worked in Brooklyn.
I'm pretty sure Dad picked up my checks. That's just why I didn't see not a penny of that money. Don't do that. Don't be that parent. Please. But as you were.
I'm like, I don't know how to come back from that.
I'm sorry. I'm a little scarred from that experience because
you are. Listen, I understand.
It's why my mother never let me come back and work there again. She was like, I came home honest, and she was livid. So. She was livid. She was like
how you have no money?
How did you work all summer and then come home with not one penny to your name because
or anything that you bought? Where's the thing?
Yeah, she said that too. She was like, you didn't buy anything? No. Where's your money? Oh, the words she said to Dad were not pleasant. They were not. She was mad.
But to be honest,
but she's not wrong. You should be able to experience your money.
Or Dad should have been like, hey, since you got a job, I'm going to need you to contribute something. But that's the problem. That's the one thing I could say. I feel like we're getting off topic, but
we're not. This is an important part to talk about. Is like how you deal with money and stuff like that. And like,
I mean, definitely do not be that parent that thinks that their money is your money.
Amen.
Don't send them off to work and then you take their money. That's why they have direct payment, the direct accounts now, and everything's not paycheck. But I figured Daddy would have figured a way how to make sure we're
not gonna talk about money.
Anyway,
our dad
did it to me.
He
dad
did
it to me too.
At doing
Dad
that.
did,
yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. As a parent, the whole purpose of your child getting a first job is for them to have money.
Yes,
it should not be because you struggling and you have poor money management.
That's right. I agree with you.
You know what I'm saying? And even like with me and my finances, I got to get a little bit more tighter. I set up my oldest account. But me and him already had a conversation when I set it up. I said, hey, listen, once you start getting direct deposits, I'm going to control how much you actually spend, because you're the one who said you want a new phone and you want a new iPad, or you want to be able to get different apps so you can be able to do your drawing, or you want a new computer, or however the case is. So unfortunately, if I give you 100% control of your money, you ain't going to do it.
Okay, so I think this is where I want to pause for a second, because I think there's something to learn here. So to answer that question for myself, my son, I would love for him to work somewhere like GameStop or somewhere where customer service is important. Like even like a gas station, because down here they have really nice gas stations. They're just not like regular gas stations.
They won't like a book Barnes and Noble.
Like a,
because he likes.
I wish I said that too. I was like, I mean, that would be a good job for you. I wanted to work at Barnes and Noble. Can you imagine how many books I would have had? That would have been crazy work. Anyway, but I would want him to do something more customer service based because I think it's important. And even as a hiring manager, that's the thing I look for on a resume. Do you know how to work with other people? Can you serve customers with a smile on your face when they're being evil? Because sometimes in the workplace, no matter where you work, you're going to deal with conflict. I need you to know that in the jobs that I have had to hire for, we had internal customers. So I need to know that you know how to handle people's demands on you, whether you like them or whether they don't, and whether you agree or whether you don't. You still need to have that basic skill of customer service. So I would hope for that. And then I already kind of explained why, because I think as you grow up and you move on to different things, it's an important skill. That being said, let's talk about earning money, which is one of the conversations I think we don't have, and I feel like no one had with me.
I'm sorry.
You okay?
I took my cough drop out because it's starting to burn in my mouth. And then it left something on my mouth. So I'm so sorry, guys. I'm sorry. That was just weird.
Yeah, that was weird. But anyway, I think money management is the
key.
Is the key to kind of understanding things and having that conversation early. So I think the best part and the validating part is knowing I worked and this is mine to control and do what I want. I still think you need to have those real questions about conversations, not questions about, okay, your goals. Are you working to get a new game? Are you working to get some new clothes? Do you want to buy, for instance, I don't buy everything my kids want me to buy. I was like, nice try. That's, not done. I'm not spending this kind of money on that. Sorry. So I feel like that connection between your work and your ability to get something is essential, and your ability to control that money is an important lesson that we need to teach our kids. And I think sometimes when we control money, like Dad did with me, he just took it all, or you want to make sure your boy child does not have.
At this point, it's okay. You can just say Jalen.
No, I'm just gonna say boy child because I respect their privacy. I'm like their mom.
I do respect their privacy. They don't even care. They're like,
that
sure,
their
Mom.
The boy child, your oldest son, gets the opportunity to see the correlation. And who doesn't admit shopping is a little bit of a dopamine fix, right?
I mean, absolutely. And I'm not saying that. What I'm saying more so is giving him, if I had the money, I'm giving you a daily allowance. Because if I don't, because I've already seen this happen. So I think for me, when I give, the reason why I said what I said is because when I give him an allowance, or I may have given him money especially when I had the means to do where I can give you a little bit more than just $20. I'm like, okay, make sure that lasts the week. He will make it last a day and a half to 2 days.
Oh,
absolutely not. So that's why I'm saying
it's immediate expenditure.
Right. It's immediate, this is still going to be your money. I'm not going to touch it. That's going to be your thing. I'm just controlling how much you can spend.
All right.
So then you still have money when school starts. Because you also got to remember, school's going to start. You may want a new outfit. You may want new sneakers. You may want, and and he's going to be a senior.
Right.
Those are going to be those things.
But isn't that a good lesson to teach him?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. So even with me, because he has it, he can download the app. He can see his money himself. I just have it to where if I need to go, you spending too much. That's not what you're supposed to be spending. I can block it to okay, now you can't use your card right now. You're doing too much. You're spending, let's say your check is going to be $400. Well, you can spend one and save the other $3.
But could you not teach him okay, this amount goes towards savings and this amount goes toward this, and then the rest you can spend? I'm only saying that because I think financial education is something that we never got, right? It was just you better figure it out as you go along, which is probably why Dad had to take my whole check because we never knew how to manage that.
That's how you say it and how you I'm
that's why I think
you have every right to be bitter about it.
That was my first job.
I'm still bitter about when he was taking my financial aid checks.
That's crazy.
Opening my mail and telling me, I know how much money you got, so I need this.
So I went to college directly somewhere else.
And then on top of that, when I was pregnant with the oldest child, him pretty much saying, well, you use my address, so that's why I need
Okay.
my money.
Yeah, no, we don't want to bash dad. I mean, I'm just going to be
I love
honest.
that. I'm not trying to bash
No, I'm
that, but if we're talking
saying,
about the financial aspect
right.
of it, and us talking about just even on topic of,
Financial
I'm hearing
education.
what you're
Right.
saying, financial literacy. Clearly, our
Yeah.
dad did not have the financial literacy, or it could have just been control. But he did not have it because at the end of the day, they never had money.
Okay. I don't know about that. I didn't live there. But what I will say,
I did, and that's how I can identify.
oh, no,
And you lived with him for that month, and you had no money because he was taking your money.
that's real. So that being said, this is all I want to wrap this up and say, like, I think it's a good opportunity for financial literacy. And I am not judging you or for how you're handling your oldest child, but I'm wondering if that would be an opportunity to teach him how to manage his money in a certain way. Because my intention, even though I will say I did give my boy child a job this weekend, he worked for me for $14 an hour for 5 hours, but that was intended to help him purchase a game or a game controller. Like that was the purpose of him having that particular role. However, he also works for my husband and he cuts their grass now for like $40 a month, which I feel like is severely underpaid, but that's me.
That's crazy.
I,
That
you know
means he's
what? If
getting
you make the
paid
deal, that's another lesson I want to teach you. You need to know your worth, right? Like,
that sounds crazy. He should have upped that. If you
I
want me
don't
to
think he's
cut,
out there for that long, to be honest. Like he was
it still
only
don't
out
matter.
there for
Okay,
he was only out there for maybe like a maximum of an hour and a half, and he's going to
girl,
make $40.
you live down south, which means it can get really hot at any point in time.
Yeah, I know. I told him. I said, I mean, maybe you should negotiate it. That's not a me problem. And I in fact said to my husband, I said, clearly
Okay.
our child wants to work for me because at least I'm going to give him the opportunity to earn more money than you will. You're giving him a fixed rate for however long that he's going to be working, whether
Pretty
I
much, he's
give him an
giving him a
hourly rate.
salary. He's literally giving him a salary while you're
Yeah,
giving
he
him
gets
per hour.
yes. But I also think that's an important lesson, right?
Yes,
To understand, like, as you enter the working world, someone's like, yeah, do
those are
this, I'm gonna
deep.
pay you $50. Is that worth that? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like there's some lessons to be learned here. And I'm happy to impart that. But I will say he did work for me for 5 hours. He did a decent job. I also let him know there was a range. He could have made $15 an hour if I thought his work was better, but it wasn't. So he made $14 an hour. But it was a hard task and it required a lot of analysis and thought. And so I tried to take that into account for his job, for his first job. So in that case, I guess I gave him his first job between me and his dad. He's been working for us a little bit. But I'd love for him to have an official job so that we can continue teaching those kind of life lessons. Because I wish someone had like helped me understand that dynamic too. I didn't get allowance. You know what I mean? So I didn't get money. Just here you go. Like that was.
So this is the thing I have to ask you then.
Yeah.
So since essentially y'all are his first job, then, and you said that you were hoping that he would probably like GameStop, because even my boy child, he's like, can I get GameStop? And I was like, that's not on the list. It's not on the list of things. And then he said some other thing. I said, that's not on the list. It's not on the list. And he was like, oh man. I said, yeah, it's not on the list. So these two, those are good. Maybe we can look into it. Like if you don't continue your summer job.
Oh, you meant the list they give you from the program.
Okay, yes, I forgot. Okay, because I don't know where I went. Anyway.
So there's a list. There's a
backtrack.
Okay.
So there's a list. So I printed it out because I'm a very visual person. I cannot just stare at the screen and really try to pick something. So that was 86 pages.
That's crazy work.
Of jobs listings. And it kind of was like telling you like the hours of operation or maybe the shifts that you will be working. And then it gave you a description and then it tell you the name, where it was at, and something else. So we had to comb through 86 of these pages. I initially picked Walgreens because it was down the street from the house, and I'm trying to think about his social anxiety.
Actually, that's actually a really good idea because then he'll get some exposure to the pharmacist, and honestly, that's a pretty good career path. Just saying.
So I will look into that. And then too, he's still doing customer service because he's going to deal with different type of people,
right,
in and out, and money management or stocking or doing whatever. Then the other jobs, I was like, well, maybe you want to work at a daycare, and he just looked at me like, lady, you think I really want to work with more kids?
Yeah, I
and I was
no.
like, I said, okay,
I said no
cool,
too.
cool.
That's my boo.
So after we combed through this whole list of jobs. We narrowed it down to, I think, like 10 jobs.
Okay.
Some definitely, he looked at me, he goes, when did I pick this job? And I was like, well, I thought it was a good idea.
Oh, so mom picked
Because,
it. Cool, cool.
I picked it. This one was like an outreach, and it was also like social media and stuff like that. So I was like, I feel like that's a good niche. Because I was also trying to find something that had graphic design or something in it to make him want to go, I'm getting up and I'm going to work. Versus, it's like school. I don't really, like, how
But that job
teenagers
sounds
can.
more like school. Like you have to do
Yes.
things and
Yeah, I
people
guess
have to
so.
review it. And that's different than when you're doing like cash management or you're waiting tables or you know what I mean? Like you're just like done
Oh,
and
that's the one
moving
thing
on.
he did not want to
You
do.
know what?
He did not want to work at no
Okay, that
restaurant.
sounds like my
He
kid.
said, I said, well, there's one right down the street. No. And then I was like, there was a couple of Jamaican restaurants, and I was like, yeah, you can't work there because you get cussed out and you'll be upset and then you'd be like, what? And then you quit and then you walk away.
Okay, that sounds like a lot. Okay.
That is. But it was literally right around the corner from the house. But either way, the jobs that we end up picking that he ended up picking that he liked,
Okay.
and hopefully that works out. One was like a party shop. So you can blow up balloons,
Oh,
help with
that's not
decorations,
bad.
do an event or something like that. I said, oh,
Yeah, I
now
think
see,
Party
that is
City
good.
around us went out of business. We don't have anything.
Right. This one wasn't a party city, but he was like, yeah. And he made that his first choice because initially Walgreens was his first choice. Somehow Walgreens became his third choice. And I was just like,
I mean, that's fair. It's not exactly the most
you know
stimulating
what?
work.
You know what? I'd rather you pick your first job as in something because this is legitimately his first real job. Like, yeah, I may have given him allowance or say, hey, if you go pick them up, I'll give you $50.
Right.
But that's not really a real job. But this here, and then just to touch on what you were saying about the finance and the literacy and teaching him, I feel like for me, the difference is I am trying to teach him to save by saying this is your limit and this is what
Okay.
you can
So you're
spend.
teaching him more of the limits and not.
Right, because yes, I can put. Also, he doesn't have a savings account, so the account that was set up was just a checking account. I'm pretty sure I can probably do a savings account too,
I was gonna
but
say
I
you
want
can
him to first
get
learn
him
how to.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I want him to learn first how to manage his checking account. That's the
Yeah.
other thing I feel like we didn't learn either, and I guess now too, checks are not a thing. But there's some places that still take checks.
I
But if I'm
learned
saying it's still,
I learned that.
and I want him to learn how
Yeah.
to be able to balance that and look at it and understand. Okay, I have this amount of money, but if I'm trying, like you said, trying to gear up to stuff because he wants a new phone. He wants so that's the other thing. I think for me, I had a savings account that I put money in, but it was like a joint to where I couldn't take money out. Like I had to have somebody to sign with me to take it out if I wanted to take money out. And then I had my own checking account that was mine that I can dip in whenever I felt like it.
Interesting.
So in essence, I'm trying to do that all with this one account where it's like, it's your savings and your money, but you have a limit. So if you spend, let's say, like I said, if you get paid $400, you're saving $300 and you're going to have $100 to last you until your next paycheck.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the same thing. Because by the time you're done, you'll be able to either, if you really want to, get your upgrade to your iPad, or if you want to get things for yourself that I don't have to buy for high school.
Yeah.
Or even save for your prom, your senior trip, to try to, that's if that's what you want to do. But I'm not, I did tell him he will pay a bill though if he keeps turning my AC on all night.
Okay. Well, that's also, I mean, I think that's a lesson.
But I'm saying that's the other thing too. That's the lesson where we're talking about and just trying to set the expectation before they start working to know that if I want to, there's certain ways for everybody to do it. So if you want your child to pay a bill just so they can understand when you're using something too much and when things go too high, you're like, but wait, why I don't have the money? Well, now you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you with how,
I think there's just different ways. My mom was very much like, this is your money. This is your responsibility. We learned checks in school. So we did learn how to do checks. And I loved writing checks first of all. I thought that was the kind of like the coolest thing. And you could kind of see. And then, we moved on to debit card situation and, whatever. But Kiara's account is not going to be in the negative, not never again, as she learned many months ago. But yeah, like I just felt like those were lessons I was able to learn. But I think we just had different approaches and probably from our different parenting. So I just want to wrap that up to say that was kind of like first jobs are formative experiences, right? Like they teach you a lot of things that you like, that you don't like. no matter where you do it and the kind of jobs you have, and that experience is something you carry with you as you continue on in your careers and things like that. It's crazy to think back on it now. But that being said, I want to toss this out to our listeners out there. You can share your first stories with us. We'd love to hear your first jobs and what was that experience. Did you have something crazy like you were at a theme park like me and was mistaken for a historical reference that should have been not forgotten, but certainly not mentioned in that experience? Or maybe you were like Nisha and you had the opportunity to do something really cool and work at the aquarium. But reach out to us, let us know, and share it on social media with the hashtag Main Event Mamas, and we'll be sure to keep our eye out on your stories. And I'm sorry, the hashtag is Main Event Mamas First Jobs, either one, and we will be checking. So there's that. All right, let's get adult, if you will. This is a spicy section. But this is about, the time where if you have kids listening in the car, this is not their moment. You might want to put on some headphones. Because we're going to get into a topic that is very often whispered about and even ignored, but is incredibly vital and important for everybody's well-being and happiness as a grown-up. I want to emphasize that. I can't speak to teenagers.
This is for grown-ups only.
Yes. And so we're talking about sexual health and relationships. And as women, our experiences with intimacy and desire and communication are incredibly diverse, and they evolve throughout all of our lives. And so we're going to dive into a really deep, honest conversation about how we prioritize our sexual well-being. So this is a moment. So if you have not got the little ears out the way, this is your time. All right, on to it. First question.
That was the shortest time ever. That means they should have been gone.
They really should have been gone.
Grown folks. It's a grown folk conversation.
I'm just saying, that background, that was a really long paragraph, you guys. So that was your moment to get them out of the room. All right, so let's kick things off with like our own personal journeys a little bit. So if I turn a little red, this is why.
Look at you already blushing.
I know. Oh, but we're going to start light. We're going to start light. So how has your understanding of your own sexual health and desires evolved over time? What's one significant shift or realization you've had about your body or what you seek in intimacy?
Girl.
I know, I said lighter. I didn't want to get spicy immediately.
Oh, Lord. I am sexually awkward.
Okay.
I have learned that over time. I thought it was because I was not. Okay, let me put it this way.
Help me here.
I'm a sexual person.
Okay.
But I was also one who never craved sex.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like I like the feeling and the touching and the, the kissing and the, the manhandling, all that stuff like that. Like to be.
I don't know how many of these clips are going to make it to TikTok. Sorry.
Girl, we see.
Okay, I'm
trying to tone myself down. I got a little.
Yes. Let's keep it succinct for today.
I'm trying. I know when we picked this topic, we were going to probably sit in.
We were going to be laughing a lot. No, honestly, no, I think that's important to know that. Like what taught you, what experiences taught you that about that awkwardness and that maybe you don't crave sexual experiences, but that you're a sexual person? I'd love to know more about that.
Okay. So I can say now I have come to a realization that I am sexually awkward. But I would say I never was the one who craved sex, especially as a teenager. Like me and my ex-fiance went on a hiatus for a year because I wasn't ready to lose my virginity. And I just did it because of peer pressure. He wasn't peer pressuring me, but hearing the noise from other people who were our friends, and unfortunately the persona that this person had put out, that all these different things, I felt like if I didn't do it, well, someone else was going to, because that's one of the main things someone say. Well, if you ain't gonna do it, there's gonna be 10 other people who's willing to do it, so what you gonna do? So I felt at that time I was only becoming sexually active to try to keep somebody. But once I realized I don't. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Can we do everything else other than that? Like, can we, you know, get the petting and the loving and the kissing and the hugging and the squeezing and the, stuff like that? Can we do that versus us having to be all the way sexual?
Mm-hmm.
So I put it on pause for a year.
Okay.
Now granted, in that year, I may have done some things. Not saying I was having sex,
Okay.
but that's when I learned. Never mind. I don't think that's what this conversation.
I don't know where we're going. All right. So,
no.
All right. So thank you for sharing that. We're going to dig into that a little bit as we keep going. I will say my understanding. I'm going to answer the question because, take a breath. Oh, girl. You okay?
Oh my God. Why? I took my allergy medicine. I'm going to die. Okay.
Stop saying that. So I will answer that question. I think my understanding certainly shifted. I think I was someone who wasn't, what's the word? It wasn't something I rushed into or was interested in super early. I'm more of a romance girl. I like deeper relationships and conversations and the emotional attachment to that, not necessarily the affectional situation. Like, I don't want you to necessarily touch me before we have a deeper connection, because touch is a weird thing for me anyway. Like, I'm like,
yeah, I'm about to say, that popped in my head. I said, you don't like being touched anyway.
no, I don't. Not without permission. I feel like we're going to get into that. Right. Not without permission. I definitely don't like to be grabbed or touched. But that stems from other things. But at the end of the day, for me, intimacy is something that I connect with something deeper. Like, I want to know you. I want you to know me. I'm very much attracted to people's minds and their values and their heart and their actions than I am to physical attraction. Like, that's one of those things that it's secondary to me. Crazy. Most people are like, what? I was like, that's secondary. It's the other pieces that really like drag me in or really like entice me more so, because frankly, anything could be pretty, but it ain't gotta be. It may not be the thing for you. So for me, I shifted and learned kind of those things about myself from definitely being older. I think when I was younger, I thought I was strange that everybody else was all boy hungry and I was not. I just was like, yeah, no. It wasn't a natural kind of like, I wasn't boy crazy. But
not like your sister. Yeah.
When I met my husband, I had a problem. I mean, that was a that was a situation. That was a situation for sure. Because he enticed everything about me. Everything about me was attracted to him. But I wouldn't have learned that if it was earlier, if that makes sense. Like, that was something, it was a connection that evolved over time. We talked on the phone for like a year before we met in person. So his way, to me, there's a little bit of a challenge and a puzzle and something like that kind of made me understand, like, first the dynamics of what I desire in somebody else, and then sexually what was interesting to me. Why are you looking at me crazy? You forgot we did that, talked on the phone for a year? Yes, we did. We talked on the phone for a year. A friend of mine at the time introduced us.
I was about to say, but wait, y'all didn't meet online. Y'all met in person. Wasn't it on the bus or something?
No. So.
Oh, that's when he found you.
Oh, that's a different type of story. That's a different time frame. No.
Listen.
At the beginning, that's not how
y'all been together for a long time. Yes. I don't.
Yes. Let me tell you. So at the beginning, a friend introduced us via telephone. And then he kept calling my phone number, trying to talk to me. He ended up talking to my aunt because she was living at the house because I refused to answer the phone when he called. He ended up talking to my aunt over and over again until my aunt was like, I really like him. You should talk to him. Until she bugged me to pick up the daggone phone. And then I picked up the phone and we started our kind of phone communication. And that was a year. Or, I mean, I don't know if exactly a year, but I would say like,
I don't remember it being a year.
I feel like it was he thinks it's a year. That's probably why I'm saying a year, but I'm pretty sure it started in like,
I felt like it was like 6 months.
I was going to say maybe 6 months or so.
Because not to put our
Maybe
business in blast,
November, December,
but
January,
literally after I
February.
lost my virginity, you were like not that far along after me.
No.
You just kept it a secret.
Yes. But I also because
yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
yes, I did.
Uh-huh.
But not because
For
it
me, for
was
whatever all reasons. I'm like, I told you.
well, the reason why I didn't tell you or anyone kind of stems on this conversation. To me,
Okay.
that's really, really private to me. So it's not something I would have openly shared immediately. Like even when I met my husband and we were
Yeah, because you
dating.
lied to me. Because I remember I asked you, was like, no. And I was
Absolutely not.
like, why are you acting like
Wait,
that?
are you sure? When did you ask me exactly?
Either I asked you right before it happened, or I
Probably.
asked you right after it happened. And
No.
you were like, no.
I don't think I would have lied. I think it was before.
It was probably right before.
Yeah. It was right before. Because I was like,
I remember asking that question to you.
I don't really like to lie. So I was like, I wouldn't have lied. I just wouldn't have answered the question. So I'm like, no. So I think very much just that was really private and something I thought of. But I also think it's because the way that sexuality was taught to me growing up, the conversations with our dad, he was so open and my mother was so closed lipped about anything that I found myself a lot in the quieter place. Plus, he was real serious about you better never have sex because he wanted us to get purity rings, which I thought were insane. And he thought, our father thought,
but he didn't want me to get one.
He thought you were lying. That's why he didn't want you to get one. He wanted me to get one and then was livid that I refused to get one because I didn't feel like we lived in the medieval times and he could control
I
that.
remember when he had that conversation and you were like pissed and he got pissed and you were like, that was actually when you and dad had an argument.
We did. And we almost never argued.
Yes. But it was like, and I just looked at him and I was like,
that's because you were like, I'll do it. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I was like, I'll do it. Sure. Whatever. He was like, no. And I was like, why no? Because you are going to, what?
He didn't believe you. That was also, I think, again, the reason why I want to talk about this a little bit is I want to take it back to our upbringing a bit.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to at least my growing up, sex was not talked about except by dad. And our sense of romantic relationships were a little skewed because he was with my mom and then he got with your mom, but that wasn't the only mom because like I said, we just found another brother apparently. So somewhere in the mix of all them people, he had another child who's older than both of us. You know what I mean? Well, he was supposedly with my mama. I don't know. But either way, like I feel like all that forms kind of how you think of things. And again, for me, those things were really quiet, really private and not to be mentioned. I was always taught to be a lady, so we never talked about any of that. We never discussed that openness, that communication, which we're going to get to in a minute, or even like your desires that were always secondary, right? And I think that's one of the challenges that I've had to experience growing up. Like, I can say what I want. Like, why can't I say what I want? Why is that something that is seen as unattractive? And of course, I married the person who's like, tell me everything. All the things. We can do anything you want to do. Of course, that's who I marry. But I think that's why. Because I needed someone who would be educating, who would tell me things and help me learn things. And we did that a lot during the beginning of our relationship. I would ask him real questions about life and he would ask me questions about sex and no one ever asked me. So we would have these really great balanced conversations, which is probably how things, went from one thing to another. That being said, so communication is kind of the bedrock of any kind of healthy relationship. So it's really important to discuss your sexual needs and boundaries. But that can be really hard, like I mentioned. Like growing up, that was just not a thing that I was taught ladies would do. And so as a lady, I just didn't know or feel comfortable at that time. Very different from this generation. So let me be clear. Y'all are real out and about and tell you things, and that's fine. But when I grew up, we didn't do that. And so strategies have you found that were effective in having these kind of open and comfortably communicating these relationships with a friend or a partner and ensuring that they hear what you're saying? Because that can also be a challenge.
So I would say with me being sexually awkward when it comes to expressing myself.
I still want you to define what sexually awkward is.
Sexually awkward means, for me, means where I have to second guess, or I become too frank and I'd be like, "Yeah, I just want da 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 da," and you'd be looking at me like, "That's good that you communicated it, but that's
Not a
what?
sexy way to say that.
That's not a sexy way to say it. That's not." And I'm like, "But I'm telling you what I want. I don't get what's the problem." And then it's like, well, that doesn't turn me on. That's not horny. You can't always be so direct forward. You got to kind of like ease in it. And I'm like, I don't know how to ease in it because either I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to be like,
So that answers. So I think that takes us back to
so that
this
answers the
question,
question.
or it takes
Oh.
us back to this question. So, like, what strategy have you found to communicate that and ensure that in the challenges around that too? Because, like you said, like the way you say it might not be the way that person wants to hear it. So that's complicated. And then how can they hear what you're actually trying to communicate? Like, is there something you put in place? Like, how do you advocate for your needs when there is that pushback? Like, whoa, I didn't ask for all that.
I still haven't figured that out. I ain't gonna hold you. I still haven't figured that out. What I will do, I will sit here and look at you, receive your information, and I'll just get quiet. Because
Mm.
now I'm internalizing thinking I did something wrong.
So do you
As
see
of
what
like,
so this is the other thing. Like, I think that always comes back to our background a little bit. Like,
mhm.
why do we assume when we're assertive that about sex or about anything else that you're doing something wrong and you need to be quiet? I think that kind of goes back to, I hate to say this, probably talking with dad, and whenever we wanted to like get our point across in a way that he did not agree with, again,
Then
for
you would just
evidence,
get
the
quiet.
purity
Especially
ring.
me, I would or either I get quiet or I'm like, okay, fine, let's do it. Let's do it. I'll just do
Yeah.
it just
And
to
I'm not.
shut you up.
I'm the
And
opposite.
you're
I
not.
am argumentative. I'm going to be like, absolutely not, because if it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not, I hold my promises and my vows very seriously. So I'm not going to promise you something and lie about it. So for me, in order for him to get what he wanted, I just didn't see a way that made sense because I was not going to communicate to you when I decided whatever was the right time. Even
Mm-hmm.
though at that point it hadn't even crossed my mind as something I was interested in doing at that time. 'Cause I think we were 16. I definitely didn't do nothing till
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
legal of
We were
age
18.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, my husband was older than me, so we had to make sure
You know
that
what?
that
I'm
was,
done.
legal.
Um.
That being said, um, that just was not, I think that comes back to that, like, when you grow up and people try to silence you or they try to overpower you or they feel like you're being too aggressive, it is difficult. So I can tell you what has worked for me in a lot of ways. Like, because we have been friends for so long, we can just have these conversations. They're still awkward as hell, not gonna lie. Not gonna pretend and definitely not gonna hold you. They're still awkward, so awkward, where it'll be like, "Oh, hey." Like, I feel like we learn something new about each other all the time, and sometimes I find games to be a way to have those kind of conversations. Like, I
Mm,
have, like, cards that I'll pick up, and I'm like, "Hey, let's play a game." If I feel like that levels the playing field a lot. Because my husband hates games
mm.
unless they're that game where you
Oh,
can do things.
oh.
Then he's like, "Hey, hey, let's play that game." But board games, he's like, "Screw that." Right? But as long as he can get something out of this game, he's down. You know what I mean? And I think some of the strategies I've had are sometimes making it lighthearted into a game and not making it as serious or taking us ourselves out of the immediate environment. I think very much in our house we're mom and dad. And so I'm like, "Can we just go?" Sometimes we'll go hang out and we'll go on those little dates to the movies, or we'll go and grab some food and sit at a restaurant, some little spicy role-playing games sometimes, but I think that you have to find ways to feel comfortable about that, and I think a foundation for me is the fact that we're friends, and that helps. I don't know, and even, like I said, that doesn't make it always, because 'cause I've had to
Yeah, because
advocate
I can sit here.
multiple
I can be
times.
like, I can be friends, right? And that doesn't mean anything for me. Like I said, like I'm okay. Maybe I should say I'm more of an affectionate type. Like I want you to like feel on me, like get me. Like when I say I'm horny, it's not necessarily meaning like, oh, I'm dripping, right? It just means, oh, I just want to, feel
You feeling
upon you, touch on
frisky.
me, like you.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling risky. I just want to, and hoping that will lead to something because now we're both like not really thinking about it and we're just going with the flow. But if I have to like think about it, if I go, hey, yo, meet me in the bedroom in like 10 minutes, I'm trying to, you know, or I'm like, hey, so am I gonna, can I get a little, you know, can I get a taste? Can I get a taste? And it'd be like, ma'am, this is not the right time to ask me for a taste. And I'm like, but why? I just want to.
I always wonder if that's a compatibility too thing. Like, because my thing is like,
I feel like that was always with everybody.
really?
Because I, like the reason why I say that is because even like if I'm going back to when I first started out sexually, I still was, and it could be a confidence thing, not really being confident, like, you know, especially if you watch porn and you watch the girls and they be doing, you be like, oh, and you be like, I want to try that, and then you be like, oh, I look stupid. Then the confidence thing for you kind of goes
Down a little bit, right?
down. So let's say, for argument's sake, let's say we are giving a little fellatio, right? And now you're like, normally when you're like, okay, I'm ready, right? And I may go, you know what, I'm ready, I'm gonna jump on. But you know how my knees are set up. I know that ride may not be that long. So do I really want to disappoint myself and be like, all right, I'm gonna have to get up? Or do I want to continue doing the fellatio? Hoping that he's like, all right, I'm ready, let's go.
That's a good question. No, that's a really good question. For
But
real.
you understand what I'm saying? And that's
Yes.
what I'm saying. For me, I become socially, because then I go in my head, I'm like, I got this.
You gotta get out your head, sis.
I can do this. And then it'd be like, the way your body's set up right now, homie. No. You can only do that for like maybe a minute. Maybe
No.
a minute.
Okay, so I will tell you. One of the ways that we've got around some of these fun things, it's just hilarious. We laugh a lot in the bedroom. I'm not gonna lie. We do a lot of laughing. And like the way my knees was set up, I was like, this ain't about to work. It's like, but we definitely like.
You can't even borrow it from the other knee. Like you can't be like, can I get the other knee? The other knee's working. Can I just do one knee down?
One of the things I did was I started hitting the gym, hitting the leg press, so I could go ahead and
that hurts still.
Yeah,
my thighs are sore right now because I've been hitting the squats.
Right. So that's one way to do it, is to strengthen that muscle. I also like to I'm competitive and he knows it, so he'll be like, oh, okay. So if you do this for 1 minute, I'm only gonna do this for 1 minute. Hold up. Boo. On that note, I was like, you already know. Like, so again, he feeds into that kind of competitive spirit that he knows I'm gonna want to win. And so whatever I got to do to win, I'm gonna do it. And so I feel like that gets me out of the head and sense of a challenge, right? So it's like, you can't be worried about that. But I also feel like that communication is super important to be able to say, like, I want to try this, but I'm not the best at it, because I definitely have to have those conversations. Like, this sounds like a good idea, but I'm not sure that I'm gonna be able to do it. And then we like sometimes will like position. He'll be like, so tell me, like, is this the one that you're thinking? But you got to be open to that kind of interaction. And it's awkward and it's hilarious.
And that's what I'm saying. For me, that's where the social awkward comes in. That I'm
I'm sure you've done this with 16 other people. He's like,
yes,
but it ain't you.
And that's the other thing. That's the other thing I pick. Okay, this is the question I want to pose, because I know it's not on here, but this is the question I want to pose. When you know that the person that you are with had more partners than you have.
Ooh.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you, in your head, compete with that, right? Because let's say I can be, sometimes if I'm a little bit inebriated, you know, you start feeling yourself and you be like, I got this, and my knees don't hurt, everything don't hurt, everything's great.
Hurting these knees.
But then, you know, sometimes you look down at the person and you be like, why are you not looking? Why are your eyes closed? What's happening over here? Maybe not. Maybe you don't, because you've been married for a long period of time. But
his eyes don't ever be closed.
Well, I mean, you are a chocolate drop. I should not be.
Also, then you missed the fun. But the funny part is my eyes are always closed.
I don't make eye contact either. So I kind of like, for me, I'm like,
well, not always.
I feel like if I do eye contact, then that means it's really personal. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, you can see into my soul, and that makes it even more awkward, because I'm going, I don't know what you see right now, and I'm looking at you, and it looks like
We don't get you a sexual course. I think you need to like shake it off a little bit. You gotta shake it off.
You're not telling me getting a sexual
Because
course.
you thinking too much. There's way too much thought happening there. And so you have to think of it as fun. Like I think that's our playtime. That's what we're like, playtime, bye. And we like deuces to our kids. Time to go play. Doors are locked. Go to sleep. Bye-bye. Like, but I think back to what you were saying, when your partner has had more partners than you, I think that is a weird conversation to have. Because I've had it. Because at some point I was curious. I was like, and y'all can tell me out there if this is a lie too.
Ooh,
Tell me if this is a
ooh.
lie. I have no problem going back and be like, confirm. This is true. I asked before because I was like, I mean, clearly you've had more sexual partners than I have. So what makes me different or special or like what is it? Because he's like, I mean, we always end up back together like we talked about prior. Like no matter who else we were with, it just was like the connection here is more than physical, but that physical connection is a component of why we end up coming back together or a piece of it anyway. So I'm like, well, what makes me different than all the other people? And he's like, it's you, period. Now, this is weird to me because I always wonder, like, from the guy perspective, if that is just something they say or if it really is true, because I'm obliged to think it is at this point because of how long it's been.
Right.
But also, it always makes me curious. He's like, the connection we do have, again, these candid conversations where he's like, physically, there are things that happen with you that may not happen with other people. He's like, there's also the connection we have. And think about what we talked about prior. You're exchanging energies anytime you're having sex with somebody else. So if you happen to find an energy that fits really well with yours, I think that is another reason to continue to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's another attraction metric that maybe we don't think of because it's not something we can maybe quantify or explain. But for me, I always thought that was weird. I was like, well, if you've done this I'm sure you've done this with this and this and this and this and this. And then I feel like from my perspective, because he wasn't my only partner either, because obviously we broke up for a while. But to me, it was different. It was just different. And he said the same thing. But I always wonder whether that was true or not. So y'all are welcome to weigh in out there if like that's probably not accurate or not. And also he mentioned like we see sex differently. He's like men and women often see sex differently. He's like, you could do a one night stand. He's like, and you know, it could be a deep encounter. He's like, or I could do a one night stand. It was just there and it was available.
And I've gotten that too. Like, it's like, especially when it comes to the conversations where we got whores, we got the ones that are kind of whores, and we got the ones who are not. And then, like hearing those conversations, or even saying, well, yeah, some of them could just be sexual encounters. Oh, they great. They may happen 2 or 3 more times after that, and then I can cut them off.
Yes.
It ain't no like. Meanwhile, yes, us females would be stuck. Like, hey, so hi, how are you? And don't let them dick you down right. Oh my God, hey, so
I could cook breakfast if you stay.
You know, if I stay, you know, or matter of fact, when can I see you again? Like I left in a hurry because I had to go to work. So when can I see you again? And they'd be like, it'll happen when it happens. Or they may flirt with you a little bit, and you'd be like, oh my God, okay, this is great. And then you'd be like, where'd you go? And they like, it was fun while it lasted.
Right. Which is, I was like, I don't know.
Like that's definitely we do as females, especially if we may be lacking something, or it's the fact, like you said, we having the soul connection, and they always say, be careful who you be having soul connections with, because sometimes those could be bad.
Yep, they're bad, but sometimes that's not the energy you need to be keeping.
Correct. But definitely, I feel like if, you know, we do have, even the ones who say they can do it, and they can be like a guy, and they can have sex and not, and I'm like, you just cut them off, like,
right. I always thought that was the weirdest thing, but he explained it. He was like, listen, like I was only in it for one thing. He's like, you also have to think about it. He's like, and I'm sighing because that's literally what he did. He explained this to me. He was like, listen, he was like, with some people it's more than that. He's like, it's the fact that it's you. And I was like, dig down into the you part because I want to know what that means. And he was like, your mannerisms, the way you act, the way you feel, the way you smell. He was like, there's just something innately different about you that may be not the same as with other partners. He's like, and that makes this experience different. Because I was like, I was puzzled. I was like, I just thought you were gonna, I honestly told him after after I lost my virginity, I thought he was gonna move on to the next. And he was like, are you kidding? And I was like, no. He's like, I love you. Like, I'm like,
I definitely said that to
oh,
him too before we ever did it. I said, so let's just get this one thing. You just want this and you're gonna leave. And he looked at me. This was one of the first time we ever had like a 5-hour FaceTime conversation.
oh
And he looked at me
wow.
like, he was like, what? Why would you say? I'm like, I said, come on, dude.
All right. But I think
Like,
that's us thinking, again, for some other people. That's us bringing maybe our baggage or our fears into what's happening. So I think it's a lot more than just that. But I do want to ask you this question. Like,
okay, I'm ready.
yeah, I
Since
know.
we've been so candid right now,
I
I'm
know.
ready.
What
Give
is
it to me while I'm
one
candid.
I know. What is one myth or misconception about female sexuality or relationships that you think that we could like debunk? So like something like, for instance, let me tell you, I think that people assume that women always want to be one thing. Like they always want to be submissive or they're always going to be naturally dominant. And to me, I'm like, I am a complex person. It depends on what I'm going through that day, the partner I'm with, and like things like that. So I think it's weird that people classify you with what they assume is who you are based on maybe how you look. Like, oh, you look like you're a sweet and more innocent type. You have no idea what's going down in here. Or the opposite. You're a badass everywhere else, but maybe in bed I just wanted you to do all the things. Didn't we just finish that book?
I didn't finish it yet.
Lights
Don't
Out.
ruin it.
Like, Lights Out.
Oh
Like,
yeah, no, I didn't finish it yet. I started reading Caught Up instead of.
oh, that's right. I got to send you this one. But I'm saying there's lots of. I think that's how a lot of these books become popular because they showcase like that innate
Yeah, the
need
different.
sometimes we had to be somewhat different than how we're perceived. Go.
Like the book. Does it hurt? That was the first time. Does it hurt? The book I've been trying to get you to read, and somehow we start reading other books.
Sorry. I'm going to write it down.
Does it hurt? When I tell you, it spoke to me in a way of, well, wait, I do want to experience stuff like that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I don't know if I want my head in water. Now, granted, that did happen one time. Put your head in water till you know. Oh my God.
I didn't even know. I'm like, what is this book again? Wait. Does it hurt? I'm going to Google. I need to go ahead, carry on while I Google this.
All right. Forgive me, family. Forgive me, main event family.
You should not be listening to this if you are under the age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. You should not be listening to the underage, and you should not listen to this if you are so.
Don't be a prude.
Sexually confined.
Yeah.
There we go.
I love that.
Okay.
Oh.
So, he pretty much pushed her head in the water while he was doing his due.
It's on Kindle Unlimited. Shout out to Kindle
Yes.
Unlimited. I'm going to go ahead
and forced her to pretty much have an orgasm.
Serious?
But not like a regular orgasm, like a squirting orgasm with her face underneath the water. And then he even said why he did it. Because the fact of the lack of oxygen increases the sensation,
the intensity,
and the
feeling.
intense of what's happening. Then he did something else.
Well, that's like asphyxiation when people choke you while they're, well, to a degree. They don't want to, you don't want to kill somebody there.
I feel like, family, I'm telling y'all a lot of my business, but it took me a while for me to read certain things, and I know, read certain things and watch certain things, especially like what's that movie on Netflix?
365?
Yes.
Yes, I also saw that movie.
But that book, you have to read that book. That book, the three.
I don't think I'm ready. That book was a lot. I mean, that movie was a moment.
No, but that book did not. The movie did not do the book justice. They made, the main character, can't think of his name right now.
Okay. I don't either.
the savior, or he's doing his love story and he found her. But if you read the book,
He's not like that.
no.
Okay.
But even the things that, like, when he did certain things, it spoke to me in a way like, oh wow, I actually like being told like that. I didn't realize I like that type of stuff. I didn't, it took me the time for me to realize that. But what I say is, I forgot where we were going with this because I kind
Yes,
of got
I
too
was saying, what
excited.
is a misconception that people have that you
Oh,
want to debunk as a reminder? Yes.
as in pretty much that all females are the same. We're not.
Nope.
Also, every female orgasm is different.
That's
I think that was a key point, even for us, that we had to figure out, or for me, figure out, like,
no.
different orgasms or what it is. And I think one of my coworkers who I used to work with, her name was Catalina, somewhere, but she was from Russia. She was from Ukraine. She was one of
Okay.
those. And she was like, we talked about sexual conversations, and she was like, oh, but that is orgasm. I said, that is? Like, us not also knowing. So
Mhm.
the myth is that we know our bodies, and technically also too, we expect the males to know our body, or the males to know our body as well. And that's kind of hard because you have to learn your body.
That's right.
And it's such a taboo thing when it comes to masturbation.
Or instruction. I've seen
Oh,
that some men don't appreciate instruction as much, and I'm like, you still need to be a student of the game. I'm saying.
you know what? That is true. You may not know all games, and like I said, you think everybody's body is the same,
Exactly.
and every female body does not work the same. So that's a myth
Yeah.
that I want to definitely
Debunk.
debunk, because a lot of you guys out here really think that we are all the same and we all work the same, and we
No.
don't.
And things
Some
change too. Like that's
That's
the
true,
other thing
or it
I
may have
wanted to
been working in the
say.
beginning, but now it don't work now
Right.
because that
Things
ain't it.
change. And I want to say, when you're with a partner for a long time, you can't always expect the initial thing to be what happens now. Your bodies change, your chemistry change, life changes. And I'm like, you got to be willing to roll with the punches, because I mean, it can get better. You never know what you never know what you didn't know until you did try it. Just saying. That being said, well, this was a powerful conversation today because I felt we got a little spicier on the second segment, as we warned. So, trigger warning absolutely will be present in the description, because I don't want anyone being terrified that they didn't catch on. This is an over 18 podcast, as a reminder. But I think that we had a really honest and revealing conversation in both ways. A little bit of innocence, talking about our first jobs and what we hope for our kids, and a little bit of
Wildness. This is the
that,
wildness.
a little bit of wildness, and a little bit of a raw place in discussing sexual health. This is not the last time we're going to talk about this, for sure.
Absolutely not.
I'm sure we're going to pick this up again, but we absolutely want you to reach out to us, share your stories or your thoughts. If there's something that you're like, hey, you missed this, or can I find out more about this? But not in an inappropriate way.
Yes, because we will block you.
Thank you. But not in an inappropriate way. Again,
Don't be trying to tell me that, it ain't. No, we don't want to hear that.
no.
We are sharing because we know there's other people out there that may be experiencing, or know someone who's experiencing this, or feel this type of way, or you may be feeling this type of way. Don't overcompensate.
That. So don't do the most. Don't be in our DMs saying crazy things. We want to remind you, if this is your opportunity, to like and hit that bell and subscribe, to share, to comment. We want to hear from you. Shoot us an email at maineventmamas@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.maineventmamaspodcast.com. Where else can they hear us, Tanesha?
They can also hear us. If you don't want to see us, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you
Especially
don't
for
want to
this
see us,
conversation.
exactly. If you don't want to see us and you just want to listen to our beautiful voices, you can listen to us on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on Amazon Music, on Amazon Audible, or Audio?
Audible.
Okay. And let's see if I can do it. Starts with a P.
Okay, Pocket Podcasts.
Thank you.
So we want to say we're not new to this.
We're so true to this.
And this
is
Main Event Mamas.
What? I need a shot.